that finishing of your degree and being a graduate gives you a qualification for life, because not all business ideas work out. Many businesses don't succeed and they fail.
Hi, and welcome to CommsLife from APCO Worldwide. I'm your host, Lana Magzumi. Every episode, we delve into the topics and trends shaping the communications industry. Joining us on this episode is renowned entrepreneur, business leader, and House of Lords peer, Lord Karan Bilimoria. He is the founder and chairman of Cobra Beer, a global successful business, and the Chancellor of the University of Birmingham. Having been recognized for his contributions to business and entrepreneurship with numerous awards, Lord Bilimoria is a prominent voice on issues related to international trade, corporate responsibility, and higher education. Today, we discuss his extensive business expertise and passion for social impact. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. I kind of wanted to start off with Cobra Beer. How did you think it would be successful, and what fuels your ambition and belief for Cobra Beer?
I was very fortunate to have been born and brought up in India, and my father was a senior Indian Army officer. He was commissioned into the Gurkha regiment, the famous brave Gurkhas, with 2 Victoria Cross awardees in his battalion. One was posthumous. And I was brought up from childhood with these living legends and their stories of bravery and seeing it firsthand. And I learned a lot about leadership from my father. I came to study he ended up being commander-in-chief of the Central Army in India with 350,000 troops under his command. And I came to study in the UK as a 19-year-old. I was very lucky. I skipped a couple of years in my education. I went straight to university at the age of 16. And graduated at 19.
Wow.
And then came to England. And I studied in England for 7 years, qualifying as a chartered accountant with Ernst & Young with EY in London. And then also I graduated in law from the University of Cambridge. And it was while I was at Cambridge studying law that I came up with the idea for Cobra Beer. And I knew I would always start my business one day, but I didn't realize I would do it as soon as I did in my 20s, straight after my education. And I came up with the idea whilst I would visit lots of Indian restaurants as a student. I missed my Indian food from home. And I also loved beer. From the time I've been allowed to drink, I loved beer. And I was very disappointed with a lot of the beers that I was presented with in the UK. I found the lagers too fizzy and gassy, and I found the ales, which English friends of mine introduced me to, really delicious in a pub. On their own, but I found that the ales just did not accompany food. They were too bitter and too heavy. So I enjoyed them on their own, but couldn't drink them with food. And the fizzy lagers were terrible to drink on their own, but also impossible to drink with food because they made you bloated. And that's when I came up with the idea that evolved that one day I would create my own beer, which would have the refreshment I'd create my own beer, which would have the refreshment of a lager and the smoothness of an ale combined. And that would accompany all food, and in particular Indian food. And that was my idea, a very simple idea. Most big ideas are very simple. The challenge is putting them into action.
Definitely. Were there any challenges that you came or were you faced by in your early days of launching Cobra Beer?
There were lots of challenges. I think starting in business, the one word that sums up entrepreneurs more than any other word is the word guts. You've got guts to do it in the first place. I will often ask audiences of students, for example, around the world, how many of you want to start your own business? And the majority of the hands will go up. How many of them will actually go ahead and launch their own businesses? That is that's the challenge. So it's the guts to do it in the first place, but it's also the guts to stick with it when others would give up. And no entrepreneurial journey is easy. It's always against the odds. In my case, when I started with this idea, it was my business partner and I. We had no money. I had £20,000 of student debt to pay off.
Yes.
We had all the odds stacked against us, including, for example, that I had no money. My business partner was a childhood friend from Hyderabad, where I was born. Our families knew each other for 4 generations. And so there was implicit trust between us. So we started together, just 2 of us. against giants. And beer brands tend to be very well established. Many of them are centuries old, and they have big budgets. And we couldn't even afford branded beer glasses when we started. Only item of sale and marketing was a cardboard table tent card that we put up in the restaurants in green and because we couldn't afford the color. Kingfisher, the biggest Indian beer brand to this day, had already been in the UK for 8 years and was already, Kingfisher was already in 3,000 Indian restaurants. So with Kingfisher in 3,000 Indian restaurants, Carlsberg, a very famous beer brand globally, was in many restaurants as well. And so the restaurants said, why do we need you? We don't need another beer brand.
Yeah.
So it was very tough.
I think, I think as a lot of entrepreneurs, as one myself, actually, I have my own podcasting business and I've started my own podcast and trying to monetize it. You see a lot of people saying no, 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 but it's those little wins, I think, that keep us motivated to keep going.
And of course, the one word that you come across more than any other word when you start in business, the converting of obstacles into opportunities is something you've always got to do, and converting the no into a yes. And in our case, I could give you example after example where we were, for example, we only had one bottle size, the big bottle of beer, which the brewery produced in India. We produced in Bangalore and imported beer. And they said, we're not going to produce any other sizes, small bottles. You can forget draft beer. We're not going to send kegged beer all the way to England and empty kegs all the way back to India. It'll be commercially unviable. You make do with the big bottles. And you go to restaurants, and they're not used to big bottles. They put small bottles on draft. So then the first no. And then you've got to convince them that those big bottles actually is a huge opportunity, because that's the authentic way that beer is sold in India. And it's a double-sized bottle, so you sell double the quantity of beer. People share the beer, which means they can share it with their meal, and people at other tables in the restaurant will notice it and say, well, what's that big bottle? It looks like wine. It's not wine. I'll try, and it spreads like wildfire around the restaurant. So suddenly that obstacle becomes a big opportunity. And to this day, that big bottle beer is a big stock-keeping unit of ours. It sells very well. And on the supermarket shelves, we're the first beer to be in that big bottle. And now every famous beer brand does those big bottles, and we were the first movers as an unknown brand.
Wow, that is remarkable. That is also a great, I guess, foundational story to Cobra Beer as well. Switching gears up, I'm interested, of course, I did some extensive research on you, of course, but before this podcast interview, and I know you've been involved in the University of Birmingham for many years, including as a former student. What have been your experience?
I was never a student at the University of Birmingham.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, a student in general. I meant that. Yes, University of Birmingham, you weren't. I'm curious though. What do you see entrepreneurs learning from universities? Do you see that they go into business degree, for example, and then from that they take their own idea and see how business can equip them? Or do you believe that taking the business and learning along the way through experience is a real way to be an entrepreneur after your education? Or do you think it stems from the educational degree that you attain from university?
Many famous entrepreneurs started out at university and dropped out. I mean, Bill Gates is an example from Harvard. He started and then dropped out. I'm not mistaken, Michael Dell with the University of Austin. I mean, there are examples of entrepreneurs who are very bright, start off at a top education institution, and then their business idea, they get involved in it, and then they never complete their degree. I am one of firm believers that higher education, university education, is one of the strongest foundations in life, because not only are you studying and learning a subject, but you're experiencing university life in its entirety. And depending on how much you engage with university life, most good universities will offer you an array of activities you can get involved with, from volunteering to community work, to music, to dance, art, culture, sport, debating, politics, you name it. And the friends you make at university tend to be your lifelong friends. My mother, who's 86 years old in India, who went to Birmingham University in the 1950s, to this day, those who are still alive are her best friends from Birmingham University. And she keeps in touch with them. She'll phone them in England or Jersey or wherever they live and keeps in regular touch with them. Those are her friends for life that she made. at university. And that's why I really believe international students are so important, because international students, not only is it good for the international student themselves, but they enrich the experience of the domestic students, the country in which they go to. And those generation-long links and lifelong friendships that are made. I'm the third generation in my family to be educated in the UK. And now my children have graduated and now are studying at British universities, and one, all being well, will go to another British university next year. So that, and then I say to students, if you come up with a business idea like I did at university, finish your degree. Because that finishing of your degree and being a graduate gives you a qualification for life. Because not all business ideas work out. Many businesses don't succeed and they fail. And your education is something you can always fall back on, and something you can take pride in. So I always say, finish your studies, then start. Or you can start side by side, but don't leave your degree if you can without completing it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. And I think you made a great point as well, as it's also the 360 of what university does. You have the friends, you have the organizations or the clubs or the meetings that you go to, and you network and you meet people from all walks of life, especially international students, as I was one that went to the States, so I can relate to that a lot. The University of Birmingham has a strong reputation for research and innovation. How do you see the university contributing to the global knowledge economy? And what are some of the key areas of research you are particularly excited about?
Universities have many functions, and I say the bottom line is the students come into a university and leave that university as better human beings. Better human beings by being enriched through the knowledge that they've acquired, the friendships, the experiences, equipping them to go on into their careers, and always being grateful for and benefiting from the university education. And universities excel by providing the best environment for students to flourish, which means the best teaching, but also the best research. And the best research for any leading university in the world, they're all research-led universities, including the University of Birmingham. The University of Birmingham has been awarded 10 Nobel Prizes. My alma mater, University of Cambridge, has more Nobel Prizes than any other university in the world, over 100. And one college at Cambridge, Trinity College, has 34 Nobel Prizes. That's just one college. And that's how important research is. And at Birmingham, the research is top priority for us, because it's that research that helps us stay ahead of the game. It's that research that is more often than not groundbreaking and transformational. And I'll give you a quick example. The University of Birmingham won a Queen's Award. And now, of course, it'll be the King's Award that is given to 20 higher education institutions every 2 years in the UK. And we won it for our railway department. We are one of the top railway departments in the world. And when we were at Buckingham Palace, and the Queen, and then at that time Prince Charles, now King Charles III, were meeting the award winners. And when King Charles was talking to us, I said, "Sir, we are developing a hydrogen-powered train." And this is Professor Clive Roberts, one of the world experts in railway engineering, and looked upon with respect all around the world. It's at the moment, it started off as a PhD research project. It's now a model hydrogen train in the engineering department, the railway department. One day, I joked and said to Prince Charles, "We will power the royal train with hydrogen." And we laughed. Fast forward a few years later, at COP26 in Glasgow, I spent 1.5 out of the 2 weeks in COP26. And we had Hydroflex, the world's first retrofitted hydrogen-powered train, up and running in Glasgow. And Prince Charles was on that train.
Wow.
And the Prime Minister was on the train. And I led a meeting of world experts in railway and engineering on that moving hydrogen-powered train in Glasgow. And so that was a PhD project in 10 years, being a world first through research at a top research-led university. It's the power of research. And what is even more powerful is collaborative research with other universities. And what's even more powerful is collaborative research with other universities in other countries. So when we do collaborative research in India, for example, we have at any one time 40 collaborative research projects on the go as we speak now. And they're in air pollution, they're in all sorts of, in health, in engineering, with top Indian education institutions like the IIT Delhi. And when the field-weighted impact of one university doing a project combined with the field-weighted impact of the other university, for example, if Birmingham is 2.7, the other university is 1.7, you put it together, the field-weighted impact is 5.4. It's a multiple of what each university can do on its own. So I'm a great believer in collaborative cross-border research.
Definitely. I think there are a lot of, cross collaborative, and I think specifically with the PhD, the example that you gave and how led to COP26 is a full circle moment where research and innovation and persevering towards a goal can really, come to life and come to see it to life, and specifically at COP26. Today, there are lots of different communication tools to reach out to new and prospective students. How do you think these tools are changing today? And how similar is a marketing business to marketing an academic institution?
I feel that you talk about marketing universities.
So how do you see it different, or is it similar to marketing a business to marketing a university when it comes to new and prospective students?
Well, universities in many ways, the big university, Birmingham University, is the third largest university in the UK. We've got close to 40,000 students, 40,000 students. And it's a big business. I mean, big universities are quite often billion-dollar businesses. And it's equivalent to running a huge FTSE 100 company with the staff, the students, the infrastructure, billions of dollars worth of infrastructure and property and land and equipment. It's a huge challenge running a university. And like any business or organization, you have to market it. And I have my 10 Ps of running any business or institution. It applies to a university as much as it applies to a product or a business. And my 10 Ps are product. You've got to have the right product, and ideally a super premium product. It's got to be at the right price. And depending on where you're pitching yourself, it can be value for money or it can be expensive. It's got to be available place. So universities are today a physical university, but you also offer online learning in many cases, or you have campuses in different locations, including abroad. So Birmingham is the first Russell Group university to open a campus in Dubai. So the Russell Group is the Ivy League of the UK, and we're the first ones to open a campus in Dubai, a state-of-the-art AI-enabled campus built in collaboration with Siemens, a top engineering company, that we opened formally with the Crown Prince of Dubai. I was there for it last year. And that campus is one of the most modern university campuses in the world. We'll be able to house 4,500 students. And it's already so international. The first year, 66 nationalities. Wow. Will be the largest. So the place is important. Then promotion. You've got to promote your institution. And your university is a brand. You've got to promote your brand. And I'll come to that next, is all universities are brands as well. And I'll talk about that later. But the extra Ps, those by the way, the 4 Ps of marketing that I've just told you.
Yes.
The extra 6 Ps are people, all businesses, whether it's a manufacturing business, my business, Cobra Beer, the manufacturing business, I'm a proud manufacturer, I chair the manufacturing commission in Parliament, but it's all about people. And universities are the ultimate people businesses, the students, the faculty, administration staff, it's all people, people, people. The next P is finance, spelled PH. You can't do anything without the money.
Definitely.
It's got to be financially successful. And the University of Birmingham is, the University of Cambridge is, but not all universities are financially successful. It's very important universities have the right funding and are financially stable, ideally make surpluses, because those surpluses can be plowed back in for extra super class, world class facilities. So for example, the University of Birmingham, the last decade, we spent over £1 billion of infrastructure improvements, including a new world class library, a sports center with a 50-meter pool, with squash courts where the Commonwealth Games squash took place at our sports center, the hockey fields, Commonwealth Games hockey took part, on the university field. Our student accommodation was such high quality that 2/3 of the athletes' village for the Commonwealth Games last year was housed at the university. So if you have world-class infrastructure, that attracts the best students, and it's very, very important. But you can only do that if your finances are good. The next P is passion. Any business has got to be absolutely passionate about what they do, whether it's the students, whether it's the faculty, everyone's staff got to be passionate about their institution. And it's better to follow your passion, not your pension. The next P is principles, that you never take shortcuts. It's better to fail doing the right thing than to succeed doing the wrong thing. And good universities are very, very strong on their values and principles. Next P is partnerships. Universities will partner with not only other universities in collaborative research that I've spoken about, but partner with their local community. And most good universities, Birmingham is a civic university. So the amount we do a study regularly of the impact that we make on our local region. And it's billions of pounds of impact that we make on the region through the employment that we generate, to the amount that's spent in the region, to the innovation that we generate, the research that benefits the region. It's endless contribution that we make to our local community, to our city. So that the principles is very important. The next P is partnership is very important. The next P is profit. There's no point doing any of this or profitable.
Yes.
It's very important to make a profit. So those are my 10 Ps of building a business, and it applies to university as much as it does to a business like Cobra Beer.
Definitely. I'm interested with the rise of AI, blockchain. We're hearing a lot of these buzzwords. Do you think from an education perspective, students are looking to start establishing their degrees from an education foundation in these areas? Have you seen at the University of Birmingham a rise of students wanting to kind of go into that direction? Or do you kind of still see the traditional degrees being majored in and attained during their 4 years or 4, 5, 6 years?
Yes, and this is changing very rapidly. So the whole AI data science, we as a university actually have world-class expertise in AI embedded. And this year, in February, I was proud to lead the University of Birmingham delegation to India. And it was a very successful delegation. And one of the highlights of our delegation was the signing and announcement of the first joint masters in AI and data science between the University of Birmingham and IIT Madras, the Indian Institute of Technology Madras. And IIT Madras is now the highest ranked education institution in India. The IITs are the most difficult education institutions to get into as a student in the world. 1.5 million students apply, school leavers. 150,000 of them make it to the first cut, and 15,000 actually get a place. So 15,000,
competitive.
0.5 million get a place. And IIT Madras, out of those IITs, is the highest ranked. And we got this joint degree, which will be 1.5 years. Students will enroll from India and Madras, IIT Chennai, it's based in Chennai, and students will learn in Birmingham. And they will physically spend time on each other's campuses and come out with joint branded degree from both institutions. I think that's wonderful.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. I wanted to switch gears a little bit. You have been recognized for numerous awards and honors throughout your career. How do you stay motivated to continue to achieving more?
Entrepreneurs have, I think, on the whole, one of the qualities that entrepreneurs have is something I was told as a child I didn't have. I was told, Karan, you're doing well academically, you should do well, keep going, but you're not creative, because I was useless at art. I couldn't paint or draw or sculpt. My sculpture was not in my mother's cabinet in India. She's got the finest porcelain in China from around the world, and displayed amongst this world-class china and porcelain is a pottery angel. Ugliest angel you've seen in your life, made by me to demonstrate how useless I was at art. And I learned how to play the piano, and I passed grade 1, but they said, please spare us, you're tone deaf. I was told and I believed I was not creative. And when I started as an entrepreneur, started my business, started Cobra Beer, I realized actually I'm very creative. And it had been suppressed throughout my childhood and my youth. One of the most important qualities to be an entrepreneur and in life. And I just wish we could encourage our children from a young age to have that confidence to be creative, to unleash that creative spirit that lies within every one of us. So I'm passionate about creativity. And if you are creative and if you are curious, you are constantly wanting to learn. You're constantly trying to come up with ideas. And that is almost a restless spirit of innovation that exists within entrepreneurs, which means you never stop. It's a journey, it's not a destination. And the best definition of the word serendipity I've heard is one of my Cambridge Business School professors. I had the privilege of chairing the Cambridge Arts Business School for 5 years. And Professor Mark Duron describes serendipity as seeing what everyone else sees, but thinking what no one else has thought. Seeing what no one else sees, but thinking what no one else has thought. And that's linked to luck. And the best definition of luck I've ever heard is in the Harvard Business School classroom. Luck is when determination meets opportunity. If you're not determined, you won't even see the opportunity. And I picture it as waves that go past you in life. If you're determined, you might just catch one of those waves. Otherwise, those waves will just keep going past you all your life. And I think entrepreneurs are determined. And because you're determined, you see those opportunities and you get lucky.
And we get lucky. I'm curious, do you believe that everyone has it in them to be an entrepreneur?
I think on the whole, yes, anyone can be an entrepreneur. But like everything else in life, there are people who have more of a propensity to do something than others. So the very talented musicians and artists are naturally talented at doing that. So I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, as I said earlier, guts is very important. You've got to have the guts to do it in the first place and the guts to stick with it rather than give up. So do you have that ability to be resilient and to stick with it? Some people have that more than others. But on the whole, I think if you are exposed to it, if you are you can be taught entrepreneurship, you can be inspired by other entrepreneurs. I think one of the best things at business school, my favorite classes are when in a case study, the protagonist would be in the classroom, would tell the story himself or herself, or an entrepreneur who's an alumni, the alumni would come back and tell their stories and you learn from other entrepreneurs. So they can inspire you. And that inspiration creates aspiration. That aspiration creates achievement, and that achievement in turn creates inspiration. So it's a virtuous circle.
So we're going to switch gears up a little bit. We are going to do a segment, getting to know you. So it's going to be a little of this or that. So you just pick what you would prefer. Okay, let's start.
Try.
Books or music?
How could I like both? I love books.
You have to pick one. So books?
No, I like both books and music. How could you make me choose two?
I know, I'm sorry. It's just a little segment we do at the end of our show. You have to pick one.
If you're forcing me to, I'd say books, but I love both.
What's your favorite book? Oh, that might be a really hard question. I immediately regretted it as soon as I said it. Favorite book?
I don't have a favorite book as such. I've read many great books, but one of them, which I loved, and I'm trying to remember the exact title, I'll probably get it wrong, was by Dame Stephanie Shirley.
Okay.
And it was her life story. I would say one of my favorite books is a book by Dame Stephanie Shirley.
Okay.
Called Let It Go.
Oh.
It's her life story. And she is one of the most inspirational people I've ever met. And she came over as a refugee to the UK and then started her own tech business decades ahead of her time. Wow. And her company was an all-women company. All her employees were women.
Wow.
And it became a hugely successful company. And she was not only a very successful entrepreneur against all the odds, but also she had an autistic son. And she has devoted her life to autism in memory of her son. And she's the biggest benefactor of autism in the world, including setting up a school and supporting autistic charities. which I've taken part in and helped out with. And she's just absolute inspiration. And we first met when we received honorary doctorates from Brunel University, and that's how I first got introduced to her.
I'll definitely check out that book. That sounds really interesting. Okay, next question. Your perfect escape: beaches, mountains? Mountain/hiking.
Beaches, because for many reasons, but one of them is I love scuba diving.
Oh, okay, great.
Done my advanced scuba diving along with my two older sons, and some of the great adventures have been scuba diving around the world.
Wonderful. Last question is, in 3 words, what is your top tip for budding entrepreneurs?
Aspire and achieve.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on CommsLife today. It was a great episode. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode. Please don't forget to subscribe and like, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening to CommsLife. If you liked that, leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. Send us any questions or comments on our Twitter page. And while you're at it, you can subscribe to and download CommsLife on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts from. Stay safe and be well.